Shall we start with Dakini teaching? Many of you talked about the channel ground. Dakini teaching is the teaching of channel ground. That's how I view it. Dakini, in a sense, guided me to be who I am right now. And all of you are, I trust. Because the deepest Dakini, you can say the subtlest or the deepest dimension of Dakini is your own mind, your Buddha nature, and your subtlest reality, subtlest being. So that's guided you, brought you here. But it's very good to learn about that. If you read Dakini's warm breath, and that's described quite detail. Right. Let's talk about how Dakini started, so to speak, in terms of Indian traditions. So Indian traditions are actually Dakan, very profane connotation, witch or unclean or destructive. There are two kinds of Dakinis. Very destructive, witch kind of blood-sucking Dakinis, which is worldly Dakinis and not so helpful, and wisdom Dakini. In terms of Indian tradition, that's how it started. Then the idea of channel ground is very important. In Indian context, channel ground is different from cemetery. Cemetery is the place where after the cremation, then bring it the ashes and whatever. Beside the cemetery, there's a place called the channel ground. Channel ground is where the body is left, just left it for decomposition. And for example, family doesn't have money to buy the woods to create the fire, or they don't have family members, just dead on the street or whatever. So it's completely exposed, no disguise or unseen demons inhabiting channel ground to suck the blood or eat the meat or whatever. Very dangerous place. So because a lot of prey coming, so humans don't want to go there. That's the last place you want to go. So this is a kind of symbolic in terms of practice. As you know, you are a practitioner, so you know what this means. Channel ground is that place. Channel ground is the place for or symbol for everything we reject. We don't want to relate. Disgusting, terrifying place for prey, animals, demons, especially at night, very dangerous. Then Dakini in a channel ground is one of the demon figures inhabited in a channel ground and sucked blood and so forth. It's interesting. So when it comes to the Tibetan traditions, view of Dakini has changed. So Dakini represents the way in which the channel ground was transformed. Channel ground, which is the most disgusting and rejected places or scary places, which was transformed. Dakini itself represents that. This is actually heart teaching, pointing out the heart teaching, symbols and action, direct opening, direct experience. So Dakini does not teach by scriptures, teach through symbols, actions, and also direct or sometimes whispered. Dakini is whispered. So in terms of etymology, Dakini is the one fly, and she who is comfortable with emptiness. Kandoma or kachoma in Tibetan. Ka means space or sky, which refers to emptiness. So she who is space, medium, perhaps gap, vast, limitless space, totalities. She represents that. Do means go or fly, sometimes translated dance, dance in the sky, sky dancer. Dakinis come from the Prajna Paramita traditions, second turning wheel of Dharma, same as Cho practice. Magic Lapton Cho practice coming from the second turning wheel of Dharma, the emptiness, wisdom, which sees emptiness. So what makes Dakini Dakini is this insight into emptiness. Dakini represent the emptiness. There are 4 levels or 4 dimensions of Dakinis, which Judith described. So I want to follow her research. First one is secret Dakinis. This is Prajnaparamita, ungraspable, groundless, or groundless ground. You cannot describe in words beyond the concept. No form, we can touch, we can feel. Because when we think about Dakini, it's kind of physical form, female figure. It's nothing like this. In this level, deepest dimension, it's about this nature of mind. You can say Ripa, primordial awareness, or whatever term you use. So that's the secret Dakinis. Then inner Dakini, the second level. Inner Dakini is a visionary Dakini. You can meet Dakini in dream, vision. Then, or that you can supplicate, object of your supplication. You can say gift of lineage. We connect through lineage. So these are Dakinis called inner Dakinis. And awaken mind of our own and the lineage. Then outer Dakini is actually this subtle body, our own energetic subtle body. This is the Dakini. When we practice sadhana or 5 Dakini practice, for example, sadhana itself does not tell us, how we can relate to the Dakinis. Usually, teacher explain the external Dakinis. This is called outer Dakini, but we are talking about the subtle body. Each subtle body carries the Dakinis. In terms of 5 Dakinis, we can place the Dakinis inside the channel and chakras and so forth. Then outer Dakinis, that's the 4th one. Outer Dakini, that's the human Dakinis we can meet. Human Dakinis in the world. These are the most probably we are familiar with. Human Dakinis, but then human Dakini also has an awakened human Dakini and the ordinary non-awakened human Dakini. So wisdom Dakinis and ordinary Dakinis. Sometimes the ordinary Dakini is very dangerous if we are trapped by the ordinary because it doesn't have a wisdom. Secret to inner, outer, and outer. Then wisdom Dakinis, of this 4th outer Dakinis, helps us to wake up in our practice. When we talk about the wisdom Dakini, like Magic Rapdom and the 5 Dakinis we've been working on, they are wisdom Dakinis, awakened Dakinis. They helps us to wake up our practice and stay on the path, help us opening the gate of wisdom, guiding us. So I think all of you here, I think you are guided by the wisdom Dakini. Perhaps outer, you met somebody who really guided you, teacher, or the whatever, because Dakini appears in many forms, right? Function is sometimes as a teacher, guru, and sometimes messengers, as I said, in a dream, or just sense this intuitive kind of connection, and also protectors. Dakinis are protecting you, staying on this path. So then the theme of in Dakini encounter, how we meet or how we encounter Dakinis. Each of you have a Dakini moment, I think. May not think about that way in your life. Reflect back. Interesting, Dakini moment. Dakini moment happens in between times. Luminous dawn or just before the break between night and day, Dakini moment happens. And also in dream and in solitary retreat, when you are practicing alone intensively, that's actually called abode of Dakinis. Dakini love to visit while you are practicing intensely. There are many ways to talk about this encounter. Like my experience when I'm bottom of bottom, feels like a end of world or, like a complete hope is gone, hopelessness. That sort of phrase, intervention comes. You can say intervention of emptiness, intervene. So turning point in our life, or Judaism called a devastation. In that sense, right now we are really going to the bottom of devastation. Dakini love that come to and point out you to the emptiness or true nature of your mind. However, not to conventionally recognized, always have this blind spot. They like to pointing out or coming from the vulnerable blind spot, vulnerability, shadow, channel ground. All those are abode of Dakinis. Dakini is direct intervention in our habitual patterns. There are lots of story, lore of Dakini is very interesting. Those scholars, and the pride, and like a peak of primal, whatever. And then Dakini is kind of prick, or prick the needle in that puffed up the egos. Dakini is intervene the habitual patterns. Transformation in the lowest point, despair. Dakini is waking us up for something we have been ignoring for a long time. In that case, Dakini could be many things. Have you had that experience, actually, a sense of being shocked or electrified? Then possibility of opening, not the shutting down. So that's why practice is so important in a sense, open, just like a Naropa scholar, Nalanda University, he did. When this ugly old lady with no teeth and came and asked, do you know the meaning of the words or so forth? Then this old hag cried because he didn't know the meaning of, but he said yes. But then he was open enough to sense this, whatever he acquired was meaningless. The idea of this Dakini is that we create or we learn or cultivate the different relationship with calamity, different relationship with the moment of disruption. So actually, that's I feel one of the part of the things we're doing in Dakini's Whisper. We are creating this different approach, different relationship to this vulnerable part of ourselves, as well as calamities or disruption. This is the powerful opportunities come from unconventional, not the conceptual, unfabricated, blind spot. Kind of stripping away what we carefully built so far. I called illusionary castle I created. Now already started stripping away this kind of idealized idea based on my ego projections, comfort. Those things, conventional comfort, are stripped away. Then how Dakini teaches, I mentioned non-conceptually symbols. They're always pointing out the true nature, emptiness, very direct, personal, intimate manner. And also teach through body, expression of form and emptiness, both. Transmission in a very unconventional and intimate way. What do you think? So Dakini is in a Vajrayana sense or expression of wisdom. In this case, we are talking about wisdom Dakini, experience of your own mind, experience of energies in your body, and the experience of a teacher and protectors, idans, all are Dakini, expression of Dakini. Dakini is emblem of wisdom in Vajrayana. The more you get into the glimpse into emptiness, you can get closer to the wisdom Dakini, and you can recognize that. And also cultivation of this humility is important in our practice. Yeah, as I said, Dakini appears in many forms and many occasions, just wakes us up. So wisdom Dakini, only intention is guiding us to the true path, guiding us to realization of truth. They are not trying to on purpose put us on a difficult situation, but then we have to go through the difficult situation. Sometimes all the discomfort in order to come to this opening, we have to come to this completely destroying whatever created habitual patterns or taking it so seriously or whatever, solidifying the reality, something like that. Judas research appears as more encouragement or protection or so forth, because female tend to have not less ego, but in Tibetan society feel more humble. They don't have the puff up ego to prick. But the male practitioner has so much big egos, especially scholars or practitioners who attain certain kind of limited realization tend to puff up. Then Dakini come and as an intervention. For example, when we look at Machik's biography, Dakini Tana appeared. Then what she said, she encouraged Machik. Machik said something like, I'm a just poor female practitioner. I'm not awake one. Then she said, I will tell you who you are. You are way bigger than that. So some kind of protection or encouragement. So it comes in many forms.